So I see we also have participants. Welcome also from my side. My name is Andrea Loy. I have the honor to be the Vice President of the UAA. We recommend now to, let's say, to limit the housekeeping to less than a minute. So after 15 minutes, we will ask you to switch to the other, as we suggested, to switch to another breakout room to also explore and have a direct interaction with the speakers. And I would ask Adrian and Hans to very briefly, I mean, just as a reminder, introduce yourself. I think everyone heard it, and then we will actually take questions. We collected some during the presentation that I can post as maybe as icebreaker, but feel free to use the Q&A, and I'll also bring you in. So just raise your hands. You have the option of raising your hands, so also you can be on stage with us. Cool. Then maybe Adrian, you can start.
Yep. Hello, guys. So my name is Adrian. I'm responsible in Switzerland for the EV charging infrastructure market for ABB. So we're a local sales and marketing sales organization trying to support our customers in the conversion towards electric mobility, and that is from all the personal vehicles up to public transportation. Actually, currently in the race for electrification. So I'm very much on the customer side and can report a lot from what's going on in the market and how the dynamics are taking place there. Over
Maybe
to you, Hans.
Okay. So thanks also from my side. So my name is Hans Adelkofer. I'm from Infineon. Infineon located in Munich in that case, and I'm taking care about the automotive system activities within Infineon. So what does it mean? So we are one of the leading supplier for the automotive industry, and so we are providing semiconductors for all major application in the car. If it's a drivetrain, is it all the safety relevant features, but as well as for, let's say, for the cabin or comfort function up to the infotainment functions. And this is what is my responsibility to have basically for our customer something like a one-stop shop. So we are providing all components from sensing, computing to actuation, and this is where we try to be, let's say, stay one of the leading supplier for automotive industry.
Perfect. So actually, already from this brief presentation, we have already one question. Maybe Paul, if you can raise your hand, you can also ask the question yourself. Otherwise, if I don't see it, I'll give me a second. I see here. Can't have a noisy place. Okay, then I'll read it out. How do you see hydrogen hype for cars? And maybe we can say cars, light vehicle, heavy vehicles. Do you see challenging the electrification of mobility and displacing the electric car long term? Maybe Adrian, Hans, I assume you both have different impacts of how that can be.
So maybe I dare first, and then Hans, you correct me from your position. What we see is that there will be obviously a parallel existing of different technologies, and all of the technologies that are in place will have their specific use cases where they can reach their optimum. So what we see right now is that even though there is a push for fully electric vehicles or battery electric vehicles and hydrogen electric vehicles, we see that especially with personal cars, that this will be much more focusing on the battery electric part. And for, let's say, the transportation long haul and heavy vehicles, we also see some push for hydrogen. In the differentiation, we still have to say though, even with the heavy vehicle transportation, I expect that for shorter distances and more controlled environments, the battery electric vehicles will still have a say, even for buses and trucks, over the hydrogen, because it's much more comfortable to use, much more easy to control, so I expect that they will live in parallel in future, even so. But I guess the larger share will go to battery electric.
So I do fully agree with what Adrian said. Basically, what we will see for the next 10 years is I'm saying always, is a very nice bundle of different kind of flowers, how drivetrains will be done. So we still will see also the combustion engine, and the hydrogen, I think, will take the first real big step in the truck, long-haul environments of a truck business, and they are talking always about total cost of ownership. And for them, it's already a business case. But on the other hand, we have to see also how is the infrastructure to generate hydrogen, all that stuff. And this leads me all to one topic which the discussion is changing. In the past, we discussed always tank to wheel. So what is the CO2 footprint from the tank to wheel? We have to come in this kind of discussion to well to wheel. So how do we generate this kind of energy? And what are the costs? What is the carbon footprint in the overall things? And here hydrogen, of course, has a quite interesting, let's say, advantage, but there are also some challenges in between, which will not be the first choice in the near future. But I would say mid to long term, I will see more hydrogen-based mobility than the next 5 to 10 years.
Perfect. And maybe a question that I see here from Claudio Molteni. What are your thoughts on the battery life cycle? Because it's a topic that is, let's say, for many critics also of the mobility. Are we just washing or shifting the emissions somewhere else, or I mean, in terms of the battery production, etc. Or how do you see that topic? I mean, how it's going to impact maybe the demand in the next years?
I think there's also, if I may add something here, there's two aspects. One is, sustainability of the production process, which depends on how much energy and how much clean energy used for the production of the batteries. That will have a huge impact on the life cycle and the life cycle CO2 emissions as well, but also what resources you need for creating or for buying or building these batteries. If you can reduce the critical components, there will be a major step in order to drive down the impact. And then furthermore, what we're trying and what we're doing already is using applications or looking for applications where the high specific energy content of the battery is no longer needed, so that even after the battery deteriorating a little bit, you can still make a good use of them. And that would be the case, for example, in stationary applications, where you then are not dependent on the energy content to weight ratio. So I think even though there needs to be a lot of work invested in this area, I think this main drawback of battery electric vehicles in any size will become smaller in future with these measures.
To add on what Adrian said, and I think it's still a big debate, starting from how do you use batteries. Means there's always this kind of topic using cars as a stationary energy source, so bidirectional charging is here the big topic that we, for example, make peak shaving in the smart grids. This is the big topic. And then the other big topic is this kind of second life, means this is a big word of it. Is it really economical and all from that point of view reasonable? I personally, I think so, but I have seen also recently from Volkswagen Group, let's say assessment or calculation that they say, okay, the recycling is the key element. So there is not really a second life anymore. So I think this is still a learning curve we have to go through, because it's not purely an environmental topic, it's an economical topic, and it's of course the overall, let's say, life cycle of a car and the usage of a battery in the car.
Perfect. I see actually a question. Oh, sorry.
Maybe I can have a question also for Hans then. Do you see the OEMs with I reckon your support pushing heavily towards V2G? Let's say from the application side, from R&D side, infrastructure side, we're actually ready. We want to see those CCS2 bidirectional cars hitting the road.
Yes, means there are many also funding projects in this kind of environment to really work out this kind of topic. And yes, OEMs are looking into it for sure, but I think you have not only technology people there, you have production people, you have also the finance people, and everybody has his own view and own assessment, what is important, what is less important. And this is, I think, the complexity we have right now. For me, we have to think in this kind of more environmental-driven aspects here. And but at the end of the day, these guys have to make money, and it's not a little bit money. They have to make most money out of what they are investing into. So that's the rule of the game. So therefore, the question is how much society can also afford to say, hey, I'm not just looking into the profit. I'm looking also for the other side, and this is exactly this kind of balance we need in the discussion. But it's, as I said, depends on to whom you are talking to.
And maybe just to link to what you said, Adrian, I see a question from Francesco relating to, I mean, is it still a topic for electrical infrastructure, these intermediate demands? I mean, or how big of a topic do you see it coming in the next years? I mean, we see fleets rising all around Europe, all around the world of electric vehicles. Is it going to pose challenges in the foreseeable future, or you say we're actually through it?
Mhm. I think that's one of the most emotionally discussed topics among the utilities, and this is a discussion that will also be ongoing. If you look, for example, in Switzerland, we have around 700 utilities. For such a small country, that is extreme, and you'll get 699 answers on it. But I guess you could yeah, put them into a couple of groups. And one of the groups is that, let's say, depending on the various power levels that you look at or at the different grid levels, you will see issues or you will not see issues. And I think when it comes to distribution and the broader distribution of energy, you're good up to like the very, very low levels, grid level 7, where it basically is just the distribution of energy to the homes and within the homes. This is where the bottleneck will be. But on the other side, it is basically just a challenge to overcome. What you do not want to do is rip up all the streets in a country in order to facilitate cars charging there. So what you want to make use of are intelligent systems distributing the loads. And this is, yeah, basically this is what we're working on. This is what we're providing already. So this is nothing that can be not solved. In turn, it's a huge opportunity because obviously it's based on data you're controlling and you're preventing huge capex. So this is something that is solved already, just needs to be realized. And then when it comes to the fleets, obviously at one point you will have to bring more power to different locations. But yeah, there's a multitude of challenges with it. It's the peak demand. It's how to utilize energy best, especially in the context of renewable energy, as opposed to maybe what Mate proposed with using more nuclear power. We see a different, a changing, a continuously changing amount of energy in the system and power in the system. So this is difficult to handle. And the bottom line, the challenge is not energy, the challenge is power. And this power demand needs to be controlled. And this is what companies such as ABB, but also Siemens and all the other companies are working on, and it's solvable.
I think you have the technology. What is the main blocking point to implement smart grids? Is it politics? Is it, as you said, many utilities who are, let's say, waiting for whatever? I don't know. What is your opinion about that?
I think the biggest problem is that the stakeholders change rapidly. And the stakeholders in the sense that different companies, different groups start earning more and more money. When it was the prerogative of the utility to provide bandwidth power on a almost a sole post or as the only one to offer, it was very easy for them. They have everything under control and they make all the money. Now with solar popping up and with more and more prosumers producing their own energy and consuming it at the same time, the power shifts rapidly. So the bargaining power is decreasing in those spots where it needs to be implemented. So utilities actually would, destroy their own business model if they not at the same time introduce business models that would make them or would bring them into the position to benefit from that step again. And this is where innovation is limping a little bit because they're very slow to adopt these new ideas. So all those incumbents in the market are pushing heavily, but are sometimes pushing against the wall. And this is then where we need politics, removing the hurdles and removing the barriers to enter that market. So liberation of the energy market basically is what needed. in order to make use of this opportunity on a really big scale.
Perfect. Thanks for the great insight on that. Maybe just to, I mean, unfortunately, I have the housekeeping role today. Just a very thing to the audience in the chat. I mean, you are now invited. I mean, to take the chance and move to another breakout. I mean, the order was given, or let's say was suggested from us. Give me a second. I just need to check to which session we are recommending you to shift. So you started group 3 with technology. So we suggest you switch to society. I mean, to also hear another perspective. And there was a poll posted. If you can switch briefly, give us an opinion, let us know. I see people are decreasing, and we expect people to join in so that we can have, let's say, a rotational. I'm very lucky that I'm part of this discussion, let's say, entirely, but just to give, of course, different perspectives. Good, perfect. Then let's give everyone 30 seconds still. I see people are coming and going. Perfect. But very interesting discussion related to, I mean, what are the not necessarily technological limitations, let's say, limiting the change. So
yeah, it's a holistic challenge to solve and make use of also.
it's like a infinite dimensional problem, the one we're facing, right? I mean, in the end.
When
Good,
it
I see.
involves people, yes.
Right? People, their thoughts, their prejudice, maybe on a technology, their beliefs, etc. I think Mate, I mean, of course, he has a very strong opinion on that, but I think he said, well, also decision makers sometimes needs to, let's say, they should trust their excellent technicians, maybe sometimes, but of course, it's not so simple. Good. I see we have 11 people. I think some people will be joining. Maybe let's start with the usual very short housekeeping. I mean, the discussion will last for about 15 minutes. We will, maybe ask Adrian and Hans to just uh, super briefly introduce yourself and like what is your era, and then we will start actually taking questions. And if you raise your hand, and if you post a question, I will ask you ready to come on stage and maybe ask yourself. So maybe Adrian, very briefly.
All right.
From your side.
Myself, Adrian, responsible for marketing sales organization of e-mobility charging infrastructure of ABB in Switzerland. So basically bringing charging solutions to the field for personal vehicle charging up to truck charging and bus charging in a range of 600 kilowatts.
Perfect.
So when I go on, so Hans Adelkofer from Infineon Technologies, located in Munich. So I'm heading the automotive system activities within Infineon. So as we are, let's say, one of the leading supplier for semiconductor components in automotive industry, we are addressing all these with these components, powertrains, safety and comfort or body functions or infotainment functions. This is what I'm driving.
Perfect. And we had actually a question during your presentation this morning that I wanted to post here. I mean, how can car companies, and I mean, you are in the end technology companies from Europe, be able to transition from a mobility based on hardware to a mobility based on software? I mean, how do you see, especially from an innovation perspective, of which I think you have a lot of contacts with? I mean, how can that transition be managed? How do you see, like, is the key enabler or maybe the key challenge in doing that? Or are we good as European industry to do that?
I would say we have here multiple dimension challenge for them. I think the biggest challenge is that most of the car industry, the origin is mechanical processes, mechanical, let's say, designs here. And this is now changing completely to more electronic. And I would say tomorrow, and so tomorrow is starting now, it's software which is generating the differentiation. If you listen to some of the car OEMs, they are saying 80% of their innovation they are introducing, what their differentiation makes at the end, is electronic based. So it means semiconductor based. And if you look into the new next steps here, when the software will come into the play, and we discussed this in the morning already, it ends up in mobility as a service. So this kind of transition, this is a big challenge, and you need new skill sets, you need new people with a different kind of mindset. I think that's kind of transition is the biggest challenge for these people. So they have to turn from a mechanical company understanding electronics to a service provider, and I think that's a huge journey they have to accomplish. And some of them are better, some of them are slower. I think Tesla was in a certain way a wake-up call for some people, and we have seen how different companies have responded, how fast. But I would say at the moment, as I have some insights what they are doing in terms of skill sets, they have it on board. How good they are managing it to bring it to the market and to find something which people is attracting. This is, I think, still a big question, and there's an open race. And new players are also coming in. If we are talking about Google and Apple, I think you know about the news, and let's see how these guys could be a game changer.
Maybe Adrian, you want to add on that?
Yeah, to be honest, in the relation with the OEMs, obviously Hans has much more experience and insight, but is also what we see. And parallelly, a similar development is taking place for us. We had it briefly in the first session, making use of data and using it to control the network, to interact with the people, will be the key in future. So I think, yeah, digitalization and in that sense, creating the right software, creating the right functionalities is key in order to differentiate, or and not only differentiate in future, but to survive the next 2 to 3 years.
Perfect. Maybe Kian, I think can join on stage, but a question from his side: how do you see the potential, or how really your take on autonomous technology? Maybe if you can spend a little bit of word on that, and also potential and challenges you see. I think they mentioned Lilium as like a super new mobility concept. I mean, do you see challenging for your business, the one you are in, if such technology come? Or, I mean, what kind of challenges do you see for your business, especially? Maybe, I don't know, Hans.
From my side here, so of course, as we are, let's say, providing the components for semiconductors, we are belonging to the winner of a change process here, because more and more semiconductor components are used in the cars, in the car as well on outside the cars. So today, a normal car has a value of $370 semiconductors, and this is changing right now. If you go to higher automation, so this was one of your questions. If you go to fully autonomous cars, when we talk about additional 1,200 US dollars more semiconductors value in the car in order to make all these things. So we are, let's call it, participating in a positive way. So we are not losing business, we are gaining more business. But it's not only semiconductors, so there's other challenges we have to accomplish to make such kind of cars as, I call it now, comfortable, but in the keyword is here, as safe and secure as we are used to. Means everybody is experiencing safe cars now. Means the cars are developed so good already that if you come into a crash, it's let's say very safe. But if you are now driving autonomously, the level of let's say quality, I would call it now, is the driver of today. So we have to do what we are doing good. We have to learn in the car. So this is a high level already. So even, let's say, 80% of the car accidents we have on the road are caused by the human drivers, but the level is still high and very good here. So we have to close it. So we cannot start at a lower level again and learn step by step that what we have learned in the driving school starting and with your experience of 20, 30 years. So this is where the software has to be as good that the people will accept it. And this is, I think, the big challenge that we come to this level here in each situation, at rain, at snowfall, in a construction place, in a city like Rome. Means if you have been driven once in Rome, I would say nice challenge.
Oh yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Maybe Adrian, you want to add?
Yeah, I guess it's similar for us again. as we are also benefiting from this progress, in the sense that when you turn to autonomous vehicles, the time you can make use of the car is actually increasing significantly. So where today people are, having doubts on e-mobility because charging takes a little bit longer than refueling, with an autonomous vehicle, that falls away because the car just goes autonomously goes charging by itself. Let's ditch that difficult word. So yeah, I guess this is a benefit for us as well. And then if you add another layer, if you think about sustainable energy or renewable energy being the source of how to best charge your cars or your vehicles, then again it is less of an impact when you start charging. You just charge whenever you can, and that point of time is decided on whether the sun is shining or the wind is going. So actually, there's a very good interaction between autonomous and electrifying the cars. And as you guys were also mentioning Lilium, that would have been a very interesting topic to dive into. I had it like on one of my backup slides, which I didn't ever get close to using. But obviously, those are concepts that are super interesting. Also, topic like Hyperloop, or whatever you see in the news, it's almost on a weekly basis. The newest very interesting topic, for example, was the intercontinental transport with 4 times the speed of sound. So I think there's a lot going on. But when we look at autonomous and like 90% of our private mobility, this is a very bright future for us if it goes in this direction.
Cool. Thank you very much. Maybe just taking a question from the meeting we have had this morning. Are we going to see a market where cars will be very similar in terms of technologies and differentiate only minimal, a little bit like the smartphone market? I mean, or how do you see a differentiation? For example, is it the charging speed that is going to differentiate cars in the future and electric cars? Or is it just going to be, well, I want whatever car going forward? Maybe, I don't know.
I can start if you want. Means I like the picture of mobile phone on 4 wheels. Means I probably have seen it already. Because to a certain extent, I'm pretty sure we will move in this direction here, and there will be still on a, let's say, a classical way a differentiation. But for me, it's also a generation topic here. Owning a car is not anymore this first aim, as I said. Also before, I belonged to the baby boomer, and as I was turning 18, what was the most important thing to make the driver license and to get a car here? So is changing, and I see it at my kids. So I see my kids already as guinea pigs. My daughter, she did the driver license, but I had to push her already to do it. But she's not owning a car, and she doesn't want to own a car. It's too costly, too troublesome to find a parking slot. And so she's not in favor of this here. And this, I think, will change a lot of these things, what you just described or asked for. And therefore, and this is where the OEMs have to, let's say, prepare themselves. But this is a different business model they have to enter into. If they are becoming service provider, whatever it is, means it's up to these people, of course. But this will happen, yes.
And if you just continue thinking and looking at the current cars that you have in the market, if you look at a new Tesla Model 3, what you'll have is a steering wheel and a large screen, and that's it. And I think this is already a good indication of where things are going, because users seem to be accepting it. I'm using it myself, and you realize that you start changing your behavior and their interaction with the car. So the most interaction I have with the car is actually by the mobile phone, getting in the winter, getting the car going up to temperature, sharing a new destination via Google Maps with the car. So there's a lot going on. So I think there will be a differentiation. When it comes to the usability of these cars, I think today differentiation still is also very valid. The charging speeds, but as soon as technology advances and we have reached a certain level of standard that is also, as Smart to put it, maybe a kind of hygienic factor, it will be necessary to contend in this game. Another question: who's charging better or less better or worse? Or in the end, it will be incomparable how quickly the cars fill up, I think.
And to add one topic more means what we should not forget, as we are all engineers, at the end of the day, it's cost. Means how much does it cost to go from A to B? And I think, and it's not cost purely in euros, also how comfortable and how fast I can do it. That's the reason why you have Ubers, why you have also the bus systems now coming up, Flixbus, all that stuff here is exactly based on this business case, cost.
Understood. Thank you very much. That would be like us being perfectly on time. I mean, guys, I posted a poll in the chat. I mean, we will ask you to fill in to give us your impression. I mean, you can now switch to the topic society. So, I mean, thanks for joining, and I mean, we will meet you after 12:45 for the plenary session. And now welcome the group one in let's say the third subgroup. So okay, I see people are connected to the next one. It's of course a challenge to just to see reaction just on the numbers or to reaction on the screen. I'm also learning it myself.
Super weird not to see people
It
reacting
is.
emotions in the face. That's super
It is.
difficult.
It is. It is. We should probably do a poll for you to just say, "Hey, how was it to be a presenter in that?"
But
Yeah,
with
true.
easily three of us. Even worse is if you see just your slides and nothing else.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
can confirm that's horrible, Hans.
Yeah, I don't like this. But okay.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people, I think the use of cameras also in professional meeting has skyrocketed, which I think is helping. So I see the number of people is now rising up. That's a good sign that people are shifting. Maybe brief introduction from my side. We will stay here until 12:45 until the next session. We have the pleasure of having Adrian and Hans that you already met this morning. If it's okay, I'll briefly introduce you. Adrian is at ABB. Head of e-mobility market, so very close also to, let's say, ABB customer and charging applications. And then we have the honor of having Hans with us, Vice President of the, is it the largest the largest
Yes, you're
division,
number one,
right? The
but you don't need to
number
work
one
here.
in the company, and by far it's gonna stay. I know of e-mobility, been working for one of your clients. I know it well. And thanks to both of you. And maybe just again as housekeeping, please post Q&A in the chat and also raise hands. We also have the possibility to bring you on stage. It's not our interest to, of course, not answer the questions. Maybe just to take a question that I saw was already there. How can technology contribute to increase the deployment, or better, what should technology make sure of? I think Hans, before you touched on the topic of cost, is it just cost that that's going to, let's say, make EV deployment easier or more acceptable, or what do you see as major driver?
I think what was also very important is the usability and comfort for the users. The hurdle of changing to a new system can only work if the hurdle is as small as possible, and you have to proactively communicate of how easy are things becoming by day, and if they start seeing charging infrastructure that it's available wherever they go, this hurdle is decreasing rapidly. Think about the customer. We have to think, yeah.
Full agreements. Cost was definitely, in looking back, one of the hurdles because only, or in some countries, we had a lot of subsidies, like in China or Norway. So it was much cheaper to buy electrical cars here. But now I would say the challenge we have is, and Adrian is responsible for that here, get a good charging infrastructure in place. I think that's what we do need, because why do we need it? I would say the main hurdle at the moment is the reach of electrical cars here. How far can you drive? And there's still a fear. I personally am driving also electrical cars, so I don't have this fear. Because it's possible to manage all these kind of things, but it's not so easy like we are used with the gasoline cars, because gasoline stations are everywhere, so you even don't need a map for For a charging station, you still need a map because, first of all, you don't have these big signs at the road. Charging stations are hidden somewhere. So therefore, this makes for some people it more complicated. So especially for elderly people, it's not very convenient. And this is what we have to overcome.
But I think exactly this range anxiety topic and just the technical limitations that we see with battery electric vehicles could actually start a much better trend for mobility that I look forward to, which is intermodal transport. There's in conjunction with sharing mobility actually. So there's no point to drive yourself from Munich to Berlin all the time by yourself, being occupied with steering or with driving. I think where we would need to go is use the best mode of transportation for the job. Basically, that's what we do on a daily basis with the things we use for going about our business. We have a shoe for running, and we have a shoe for going to work. And this is what I think we should also think about in mobility. Use the long stretches by train and rent a car on location. And I think this would be the future. And then also range no longer is an issue at all.
Okay, thank you very much. I managed to bring Albert in the stage. Albert, hi, wonderful.
Hi, hello.
Hi, do you want to pose a question?
Yes, exactly. I have a question. I think probably the answer will touch on different points that you already discussed. But anyway, so I was reading recently an article about how in the US they set a goal like to be in 2050 to have 100% electric vehicles on the road. But in order to achieve that, they would need to have 100% of sales of electric vehicles by 2035, which is basically around the corner. And my question is, if we assume that the situation would be more or less the same in Europe, that we need to sell 100% electric vehicles in less than 15 years, what would we need from both the demand side, like from people to create this demand for electric vehicles, and also since you work at Infineon and maybe from the supply side, what are the technological hurdles and what do we need to do in order to achieve that in less than 15 years? Thank you.
Means from my point of view, I don't believe in, let's say, only one technology which will then dominate it, the whole mobility. It will be a combination, and therefore I like the term which the Chinese are using much more, because most people think Chinese talking about battery-driven vehicles. No, they call it new energy vehicle, and the name is already indicating clearly they see different sources of energy which will be transforming the mobility sector, and they are counting on, let's say, of course, battery-driven vehicles, but they count also very much on fuel cell, that means on hydrogen, and they are counting also on alternative fuels, if it's methanol or other things. This is what is in preparation. I think if we talk about this time frame you were asking for, I would say these kind of technology will be in existence. How about fair share? If it's 80%, 20%, or 50-50, it's difficult to judge. Means we believe that it's more for battery-driven stuff here, but I would clearly say if this is a discussion we have to have also is, if you talk about well-to-wheel, what is the cost, what is the carbon footprint to generate all these kind of things? And the whole battery industry now is trying to get cobalt-free, let's say, batteries. Why? Because we know it's the best, or it's a very good material, but we know where it's coming from and how it's basically the mining is done. So is this what we want to do? Or we say, okay, we don't care because only the cost is driving me. So therefore, we need this kind of social debates and we need this kind of consideration. And if we say, okay, the working slave in Africa, we don't care. Okay, fine, then let's ignore it. And then it's the cobalt stuff which is driving us. So, and the same what I see currently is the battery industry at the moment tries to get purely renewable energy sources. So they want to produce the batteries based on 100% of green energy. And then, of course, the whole carbon footprint looks again different to the combustion engine which we are having today. Because if we take again coal-powered, let's say, power plants to produce the batteries, the footprint is not so good anymore for battery-driven vehicles.
And if I may add a thought that is also very important, I think, is the discussion on the energy itself. When we look at what we want to consume in order to have the energy to move about, we need to think that the various different solutions just have different efficiency, and that is, for example, one of the main drawbacks of hydrogen mobility, that the conversion rate is just bad. It's just bad. So you have to think of how to make best use out of the energy that you have, and then deploy it in the right way. I think there's also a discussion to have.
Great. I see here Patricia on the line, now with us on stage. Hi, Patricia.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, with a little bit of echo though, but it's okay. You can say your question.
Okay, so I also wrote the question in the Q&A part. Oh yeah, I also hear some echo from my own voice. So the question is that I was in the previous session and Hans delivered a very interesting concept that I never thought about. That is that the dynamic between the OEMs and the car dealers will change because of the development of the autonomous vehicles. And that is because the focus on technology will more be about the users. So I'm curious if this is already going on, are there any examples that we see in the industry that is already happening, and how are companies adapting to this?
Examples in terms of small scale, yes, this is what you see already. Means you will have these kind of operators coming into the picture, that's for sure. How the classical automotive industry will react, this is now exactly the interesting point, because what I think they definitely want to avoid, that they are just the hardware supplier, that they are just providing let's call it the mobile phone underneath, and everything what is on top, the operating system, the applications, doesn't come anymore from, to use the analogy to the mobile phone, it doesn't come anymore from the well-known OEMs. I think this is clearly what they want to avoid. So therefore they have to transition. So if they are going to the business like a Uber is doing, or if they're going to the business like a Sixt company is going, or are they opening, and this is what is my belief, completely integrated mobility services, which I believe most into it. I think this is what Adrian, I think, also indicated just before, going from A to B, does it need always a car, or does it a good service provider saying, hey, here's my home, somebody brings me to the train, because the train is the fastest element to come to Berlin, and from Berlin to my friend is again a different, let's say, integrated concept, and I don't care so much. I think this is my vision, how these guys have to transform, and how much they will sell the hardware and hardware plus software, or how much they are selling for service. I think that's, for me, the transition people have to think of and to put into place. And we have seen how fast this has happened in the mobile phone industry, that the industry has changed completely, and the value drivers have changed completely. And this is what I see also happening here. And especially, Patricia, you are the generation who will drive it. Me, as I wouldn't call me very old, but older generation in terms of driving this here, we will not change it so much. It could be that I can help to transform it from the technology point of view, but in use cases, I will still probably work in the old way. Even I like very much like Uber. We have a lot of echo.
Yeah, there was a little bit of echo. I tried to bring Hermes into the stage. Sorry for that.
Hello.
Hi, Hermes.
Hello, everyone. My question was about the innovation for car manufacturers. It seems that the future of mobility will be more and more towards software innovation. So my question would be, what car manufacturers are currently doing in that direction, and if the competition with pure software companies can be detrimental for the whole business or market.
Or if they can stand a competition. I think we had that too.
The question is it competition or partners? If you look into the press, and I think probably have heard about, Volkswagen Group has their own, I would even call it company. It was called before Car OS organization. Now they changed to an artificial name, which I forgot already. It's difficult to memorize all these special names, but for most car OEMs or traditional car OEMs, they understood the challenge. Whether they can master the challenge is a different question, of course, and how well they are, let's say, prepared for, because software people have a different engineering thought process than mechanical or electronic engineers. So therefore, you need this kind of, let's call it software talent, and they have to master to get these people in place. They have to think in IoT, so Internet of Things terms, and that's definitely not an easy task to transform such companies. So therefore, I think it's a good move from Volkswagen Group to say, hey, I start a separate company, and they cannot avoid the legacy, but at least they reduce the blocking points of this legacy of a mechanical company to bring it into the car and the software company. And this is what they do in a correct way. Whether they will be very successful, the future will show. I don't have this glass ball, unfortunately.
Adrian, maybe from your side.
Well, to be honest, I'm not so close to the OEMs here, but it sparks a question in my mind, and that is also a transitional topic. Do you think, Hans, that the companies, those OEMs, are actually ready to have the whole mobility landscape transition? If we look back the last 100 years or 90 years, the OEMs dictated a little bit of how the cars and how the vehicles will be used. Now they are moving into a position where they are no longer the driver of how things are looking. Do you think they're ready for this change of this ecosystem?
Difficult to say. I would say they are not fast in terms of adopting it. I would say 6-7 years ago was really having the opinion these guys will become the dinosaur. So there will be another Nokia case happening. Meanwhile, I would say they understood the challenge, but it comes back to this glass ball topic. It's bigger investments they have to do. This is one side. Fortunately, they are profitable. At least the European guys are profitable to finance these kind of things. Yeah, means. But whether they have the structure for management, these kind of visions in place, question mark.
Maybe in the last 3 minutes, I mean, I'm taking a question that we had this morning, and it went along, let's say, technologies. So they said, well, is it going to be silicon carbide? Is it going to be gallium nitride? Maybe from your view, do you see like an emerging standard coming up? Because I think the difficulties a lot of players are facing is that actually it's exactly the opposite. We're starting from a combustion engine world with one solution, one main solution. Well, it's 6 or 8 pistons. Okay, doesn't really change, to a super broad set of solutions: silicon carbide, 800 volt, 400 volt, gallium nitride, silicon IGBT, silicon MOSFET. What do we do? Do you have a take on that, or do you see trends, let's say, leading to a standard?
Yeah. Means I was interested to see if this kind of question came up. Means I didn't expect it, but okay, it's good. Let's say for these people who don't know what we are talking about, today we have silicon-based power technologies called IGBT, and this is now at the moment the transition to silicon carbide. And on the horizon or in the market introduction, we have gallium nitride, just to put it into the context that everybody knows what we are talking about. And the only difference, I would say, is that we can achieve higher efficiency with these kind of technology. So we are not generating heat and burn energy or change energy into heat, basically. It's a cost topic. I would say we as an industry, we will be able to manage that here. And for each, let's say, for the different use cases, we have different, let's say, sweet spots for these kind of technologies. So We say if we change, means all onboard chargers which are installed in the new cars will have silicon carbide. In the charging station, silicon carbide is moving in or is becoming standard. Gallium nitride is more you can say you convert energy to for a inverter. That means for a drivetrain, we won't see gallium nitride in the near future. So just to put it a little bit in perspective, but this kind of technology will exist. It's always a topic of cost, availability, and quality, or we can also call it robustness, because I think nobody wants to see if you drive an electric car that after 10,000, 15,000 kilometers, your inverter is burning or is not working anymore. So this is what we need. We need this kind of automotive quality, as we call it. So it has to operate many thousand hours, and ABB needs the same for their solutions, and this is what we will provide. So it's not a hurdle. It's a, let's say, technology challenge, but it's on the way.
Perfect. Thanks for the explanation. Very interesting. Also, that those questions come up. I mean, a lot of probably electrical engineer in there.
Yes, obviously.
I would say then thank you very much. I mean, thanks also for the questions that they came through. You guys have about 10 minutes break. We will meet you for the final discussion all together with the speakers. Instead, for all the alumni, etc., we are introducing our innovation platform. Here we talk a lot about technology, what is coming next, and we are launching an own innovation platform to try to really bring all the smart minds of all around Europe engineering together to sort these kind of issues, which are not easy, as we discussed. Thank you very much for everyone, and see you, as said, for the final discussion to you, Adrian and Hans, and the rest in the innovation platform. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thanks
See you
for the
later.
question.